Alright guys, today we're going to be going over how to deal with special right triangles. There's two types of special right triangles we're going to deal with. One is 45, 45, 90. The other one, which we'll get to later, is called a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now, the reason why these are special is because whenever you have these angle lengths, alright, the sides of the triangle, okay, so let's get a little bit closer. The sides of the triangles actually pretty much has the same ratio. So in 45, 45, 90, the ratio is 1, 1, square root 2. Meaning that the base ratio that if this side is 1, this side is congruent to that side, which would also be 1, and then this side would be square root of 2. What these s's mean is that whatever number we choose, we can replace all the s's with that number, and then that will be the ratio. So let's say this was 5, this would also be 5, and this would be 5 square root 2. So when we look at something like this, where you have a triangle, you have the 45, 45, 90, and you know that one of the legs, okay, so one of the legs meaning straight sides, not the diagonal side, but one of the straight sides, is 9, well, I'm just going to show you that this side would also be 9. Now this is the hypotenuse. So, the hypotenuse that it says right here, you take whatever one of the leg lengths are, and you multiply it by square root of 2. So this time it's going to be 9 times square root of 2. So 8 should give you 9 square root 2. Same thing over here. Same idea. What we're going to do is you have this side right here trying to find this. So there's the same idea with this one right here, is that we got side length of 2 square root 2. Now we have to find this little diagonal right here. Alright, so this is where last note comes in handy. So we know the side length is 2 square root 2. So we know this side is also 2 square root 2. And we know that this is going to be 2 square root 2 multiplied by square root of 2. Remember, we can't multiply the outsides, or we multiply the outsides together and we multiply the insides together. Well, 2, there's nothing over here, so we just rewrite 2. Inside's 2 times 2. So we have square root of 4. Now we can actually break down square root of 4 into 2 and 2, which means we have enough to cancel out and bring outside the square root sign. So, technically I have 2 times 2, which gives us 4. So x is 4. Alright, I'm going to give you guys a little bit. Would you guys try the U-try? If there's some in the room, please pause the video at this point in time. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, then just pause the video, try the U-try. If you still don't understand, then continue watching. Okay, so we have this one right here. We know that this is going to be 5 square root 3. Alright, I'm going to label these 45, 45, and I'm just going to do that just so you guys know that's what it should look like. So, we know that's 5 square root 3, that's 5 square root 3, and we know how to find this. We take the leg and we multiply it by square root 2. So remember, you gotta multiply the outsides. There's no outsides, so 5 stays the same. Multiply the insides, which becomes 6. So 5 square root 6 is your answer for this one. Next one, 7. So you know this is 7. find this, we just have to take 7, multiply by square root of 2, which just ends up with being 7 square root 2. And that's how you find the hypotenuse knowing one of the legs. Give you a second to write that down. Alright, moving on. Next page. Now, sometimes you're going to be given the hypotenuse and you're supposed to find the leg. So this is how this is done. We're going to use the same idea that we had last time, and that is we're going to multiply the leg by square root of 2. But this time it's going to be x times square root of 2 should give us 6. So x times the square root of 2 should give us 6. Now we're going to have to solve for x. Well, since they're multiplying, the only way to get rid of the square root of 2 is divide by square root of 2. So we have x equals 6 square root of 2. Now remember, we cannot have square roots on the bottom. So what we had to do is get rid of it by multiplying the top and the bottom by whatever the root is. Since it's square root of 2, we multiply by square root of 2 on top and bottom. So it becomes 6 square root 2. Since these two are going to multiply together, the roots cancel and you just get a 2. So that's your final answer. 6 square root 2 over 2. If you reduce it, it should become 3 square root 2. Because 6 and 2 both divide by 2, so it should be 3 square root 2. Just copy that down. Alright, the next one. Same idea. We're going to take the 7. So we're going to take x times square root of 2 equals 7. We have to divide by square root of 2. So we have 7 square root of 2. We had to get this out of the bottom, so we have to multiply the top and bottom by square root of 2. That'll give us 7 square root of 2 over 2. And this cannot be reduced at all, so we're done. I'll give you guys a second to copy that down. Okay, we have 5 square root of 7 and x. We use the same idea, just a little bit more complicated. So we're still going to take x, we're going to multiply by the square root of 2. We're going to set it equal to 5 square root 7. We're going to divide by the square root of 2. Okay, and we're going to solve for this. So we have 5 square root 7 all over square root 2. We have to multiply the top and bottom by square root of 2. When we do so, the roots multiply, so we get 5 square root 14 because 7 times 2 equals 14. The roots cancel on the bottom. And that's our final answer. I'll let you copy that down. Okay, same idea. We're doing the hypotenuse again. So we got x times square root of 2 equals 9 square root 5. Solve by dividing by square root of 2. So we have 9 square root 5 over square root 2. And then we set that, or we had to multiply both the top and bottom by square root of 2. Alright, when we do that, 5 times 2 becomes 10. These two cancel out. Can't reduce. So we're done. Give you a second to copy that down. Alright. Next one. You guys are going to try this one and this one. So if you guys are watching this on film or on YouTube, pause it. If not, then if there's a sub in the room, please pause it. Alright, let's solve. Okay, 13. So once again, we're going to do the same thing. X times square root of 2 equals 13. We divide by square root of 2 on both sides. It gives us 13 over square root of 2. We have to multiply both the top and the bottom by square root of 2. These square roots cancel out. You just get a 2. 13 times square root of 2 is just 13 square root 2. And that's your answer. Give you a second to write that down. Same idea over here. We've got x times square root of 2 should give us 7 square root 13. Divide by square root of 2. That gives us 7 square root 13 over square root of 2. We got to get the square root of 2 at the bottom. So we multiply the top bottom by square root of 2. That gives us 7. 13 times 2, which is 26, all over 2. This can't be reduced, so we are done. Give me a second to write that down. Alright. Now, that was 45, 45, 90 triangles. Now we're going to start talking about 30, 60, 90 triangles. So 30, 60, 90 triangles are kind of special on themselves. And that they have the same type of idea where you're going to take, where your hypotenuse is something times something else, so on and so forth. What it is that the shortest leg, the smallest leg, the leg that is across from a 30-degree angle is their smallest leg, okay? That's what we're basing everything off of. This side right here, the longer leg, is the shorter leg times square root of 3. And then the hypotenuse is 2 times this thing right here, s. So 2 times s. So this is what we're going to use to try to figure out different types of leg lengths. For example, in this first one, we're going to use the hypotenuse, or not the hypotenuse, the longer leg to figure out the shorter leg and the hypotenuse. We're going to first try to find the shorter leg, since this is usually what everything is based off of. Now, we know the shorter leg, if you multiply it by the square root of 3, should give you the longer leg, which is 5. So you see a little pattern that we're doing with this on the 45, 45, 90. So we're got to set up the equation, then we got to solve for it. So the shorter leg is d times square root of 3. So we're going to do this. We're going to divide by square root of 3 on both sides. That's going to give us 5 square root of 3. We're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3, square root of 3, to get rid of that radical. It's going to give us 5 square root of 3 over 3. Now this is the shorter leg. It's the shorter leg. Now to find the hypotenuse, we have to go back up here. What do we know about the hypotenuse? We know that if we take 2 times the shorter leg, we'll get the hypotenuse. So this is the shorter leg. So what we need to do is we need to take 2 times 5 square root 3 over 3. This kind of looks complicated, but in fact it's a little bit easier than you think. We're just going to take this 2 and we're going to multiply this 5. Because technically this is a fraction, 2 over 1. So we multiply the top, multiply the bottom. When we multiply the top, we get 2 times 5, which is 10 square root 3. Multiply the bottom, it stays 3. So this is the short leg, or D, and this is the hypotenuse, which is F. Give you a second to write that down. Okay. Let's do this next one. This one's a little bit easier because we know the shorter leg. So we can figure out x and y pretty easy. X equals, well, x is the longer leg, and as we said up here, the longer leg is just square root of 3 times shorter leg. So we just take 7 times the square root of 3, which gives us just 7 square root of 3. Y, same idea. Y, the hypotenuse is just 2 times the shorter leg. So all we gotta do is 7 times 2, which gives us 14. So if we know the shorter leg, it's pretty easy to find these two pretty quick. It's a little bit harder when you know something else, but at least we know this. Give you a second to write that down. Alright, this next one down here. We know the hypotenuse now. So, we know the hypotenuse. So let's try to find x. Try to find the shorter leg. Alright. We know that 2 times x should give us the hypotenuse, which is 8. Because 2 times the shorter leg should give you the hypotenuse. So we know 2 times the shorter leg should give us the hypotenuse. So if we set up the equation like that, we should be able to solve for x. X will give us 4. Now, we know the shorter leg now. We know the shorter leg is square root of 4. So now we can find y. Y should be, alright, the shorter leg, which is 4, multiplied by the square root of 3. So 4 times square root of 3, which gives us 4 square root 3. Give you a second to write that down. Alright, this one. Alright, this one's just like this one up here. It's just going to go pretty quickly because we already know how to figure out the answers using the short leg, because it's always the leg across from the 30. That's the short leg. So if we say, we're going to say x, which is the hypotenuse, is 2 times the shorter leg, which is 9, should give us 18. Y, which is the longer leg, is just square root of 3 times 9, which should give us 9 square root 3. And that's all that needs to be done with the shorter leg. Alright. Let's try this one. Alright, so we know the longer leg. So our first step is to find the shorter leg. You should always try to find the shorter leg first. So we know that y times the square root of 3 should give us 12. So we get rid of the square root of 3, both sides. That gives us 12 over the square root of 3. So we're going to put 12 square root 3. We have to get rid of the square root 3. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3, which should give us 12 square root 3 over 3. Now, since the top and bottom can both be divided by 3, we're going to reduce this down. We're going to get 4 square root 3. Now that we know 4 square root 3, we know this is our y. This is our y. That's our shorter leg up here. We know that's 4 square root 3. So now we can find our x pretty easily. Our x should be 2 times 4 square root 3. You multiply 2 times 4 square root 3, you should get 8 square root 3. Give you a second to write all this down. Alright. The last before the U tries. Okay, we know the hypotenuse, we're trying to find these two. So first, once again, we're going to try to find the shorter leg. We know that 2 times the shorter leg should give us the hypotenuse, which is 4. Divide both sides by 2. Y gives us 2. So that's our shorter leg. So we know this is 2 over here. Now we got to find x. X is the shorter leg, which is 2, times the square root of 3, which gives us 2 square root 3. And that's the answer for x and for y. Alright, the next 3 are U tries. So I want you guys to pause the video if you're watching this on YouTube. Try the next 3. Otherwise, get started. Or sub, please pause the video. Thank you. Alright, so this is what you guys should have done. On the first one, once again, we're always trying to find this shorter leg right here. It's always the easiest to find, to really find the other two. So we know 14 is the hypotenuse, and we know 2 times the shorter leg should give you the length of the longer leg. So 2 times x should give you 14. So again, we divide by 2 on both sides, we get x equals 7. So now that we know that x equals 7, what we have to do is find y. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 7, alright? We know that 7 times the square root of 3, because remember that when you find the longer leg, you take the shorter leg multiplied by the square root of 3 to get the length of the longer leg. So 7 times the square root of 3 gives you 7 square root 3. Give you a second to write that down. Alright, this next one, we already know the smaller leg, so this one's a lot easier than the other two. So if we know that to find y, or the hypotenuse, we take 3, we multiply it by 2, and we get that y equals 6. The other one, we take 3 times square root of 3, and we get x equals 3 square root 3. Give you a sec to write that down. Alright, last but not least, we have this thing down here. We're going to try to find the base leg first, like we always do. So remember that x times the square root of 3 should give you the longer leg. So we have to divide by the square root of 3, which gives us 5 square root 3. Now, we can't leave the square root and bottom, so we have to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 3. And then that will give us 5 square root 3 all over 3. That is what our x is. So this is the x. Now to find the y, alright, because the x is the shorter side, we had to take 2 times 5 square root 3 over 3. And if we do that, alright, because this we're going to do this, make this into a fraction. When we do that, we have to multiply the top together. So you get 2 times 5 becomes, so y is going to equal 10 square root 3, because we only can multiply the outside numbers together. We don't want to multiply under the root unless we have another root. Then we take 1 times 3, and we get 3. Final answer. So your x is 5 square root 3 over 3, and your y is 10 square root 3 over 3. Now try out the homework. You guys will have a small review on Wednesday, and then you guys will have a small quiz on Friday. So prepare yourselves for that. All right, thanks.